Hi guys, hope you're well. Welcome to DOdaily Thursday Thoughts. It's Des here, live from the dining room. Hope you're having a great day. Hope you're having a great week. First full day back in lockdown. So back out of lockdown. Sorry. So hopefully you're sticking to the rules, sticking to what we need to do, staying safe. But of course, the most important thing, what we try to encourage through DOdaily, through Do Running, the community we've got there, is to stay active and keep doing the things we do, but in the best possible manner, to keep us all going, to keep us on top form, to keep us positive. And that's really important, isn't it? I've been speaking a lot this week about throwing ourselves into things. And of course, I've thrown myself into making plans for Christmas. Whilst it's a little bit of a tricky time for me right now, I've sort of mentioned that in the last few days through sort of things that have happened in the past. It's important for me to use those situations to be positive, to sort of celebrate those, whilst they've been difficult sort of throughout the years. It's important to sort of use them, look forward to what's coming, don't let it sort of define that, and really sort of focus on creating some positive outcomes, some positive situations, things to look forward to. And that's what's really important, isn't it? Whilst there's a lot of positivity in the news surrounding vaccines and the potential of things going back to normal, it's important to remember that that's not going to be immediate. So we've just got to sort of see it through, do all the things we can, and if we can sort of push those negative thoughts, push COVID and the situation to one side and enjoy the Christmas and festive period, it'll be better all around it'll be better for all of us all around, won't it? So that's really important. And of course, heading into another weekend, a bit gloomy out there, but again, let's not be put off by that. Let's look forward to what we've got to do. Definitely I'm myself, I always got plenty of work to do before I finish for the weekend. Come back in the morning and wake up to walk. Love that. There's a hint of snow about as well, so might be a little bit different tomorrow, but we'll face that when it comes. But I'm looking forward to sitting down, as I do on a Thursday, finish my challenge as well of non-drinking, so I can have a glass of wine. Had a couple of beers last night, so I actually forgot that we was actually out of lockdown yesterday, back into tier 3 here in Nottingham. So I had a couple of cans of beer while I watched Forest, and that was a little bit more positive too. So finally, it feels like we're getting somewhere. But yeah, I'll sit down, I'll have a glass of wine. We've got a big pot of stew cooking away in the kitchen, so I'm really, really looking forward to that. Kay's just going to get some bread to have with that. So nice hearty winter tea. And that's kind of a good way to start, really. Last week, the throwback question was, how are you adapting to the winter and the cold nights? The dark nights are in the cold winter. Of course, it's really setting in now, isn't it? I just mentioned there the possibility of snow. So whilst I offered a few tips on the back of a question last week, things like choosing different routes, using your Strava beacon, all that can be found on last week's episode, so check that out. But I asked the guys to sort of chip in with their tips and how they're dealing with it as well. So got a couple of responses, a couple of really good ones. Dawn mentioned that because she's got diabetes, she has to monitor her blood sugar levels, and sometimes the cold messes with those levels. So she has to she does a test before she goes out just to make sure she's okay to do her activity. I think that's really important, isn't it? Especially if you've got diabetes, to consider like I say, she does that test, but she also makes sure she's got plenty of sweets with her. Whenever I'm with Dawn personally, she's always got plenty of sweets, so we can always rely on that. But yeah, so it's important just to make sure she keeps the sugars high, and she's taking action there. So, like I say, for anyone with diabetes, that's a useful tip. On top of everything else, Kirsty mentions that she avoids listening to music so much when she's out in the dark. She was the one who posed the question about sort of, particularly being a female, is there any sort of advice what we can give? And some of those things I mentioned before was what I came back with. She also added to that, like I say, she don't listen to music as much. She don't have her headphones in. She tries to be a little bit more aware of her surroundings, you know, and aware of what's happening around her. I think that's really important too, isn't it? Just to sort of be fully alert to what's happening. And Ben says what he likes to do. He checks the forecast the night before, tries to get the appropriate kit out. I did touch on this a little bit about sort of checking what the weather's like and sort of dressing accordingly, but Ben likes to sort of do that a bit further in advance. And he says if he's got an idea, he tends to place his kit on the radiators, so all his kit's warm and nice to put on to go out into that cold, bitter air. I actually ran with Ben this morning, and I'm not one for putting too many layers on, but it was really bitter and cold. I put my do running mid layer on, you know. Probably regretted it slightly towards the end, but yeah, it was definitely needed. Definitely getting colder out there. So all those things are really useful. Like I say, it's great just to get those back. You know, just what I try to do with this is just get everybody involved. You know, whilst I've got ideas, whilst I can do research, whilst I can find things to look at, it's really important just to just to get ideas from others. It's about sharing that information. You know, I always say I haven't got all the answers. I don't always get it right myself. So if I can get feedback from you guys, it's really appreciated in passing on to people watching in who might just take something from it and it might just assist them while they're out doing their activity. And that's what that's about, really. So thanks for that. And thanks for the questions. Got 4 to go at today. Again, a good variation, really tie in well with some of the things we've spoken about already, you know, and some of the things that we're going to be doing going forward. So I'll crack straight on with those. The first question is from John. Of course, with the easing of restrictions, he says, do you envisage group activity meetups being reintroduced? Well, the honest answer is I've just been checking the rules thoroughly with Sport England, and as a group, as an organised group, we can actually, if we're COVID secure, sorry, that was the word. If we act in a COVID secure environment, we can actually run group activity. That said, in terms of do running, all the way through this, I've been insisting that I only really want to bring activity back when it's fully safe and secure and everybody can get involved and we can do it the way we used to do it. My thoughts are, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We've always ran from a base. You know, it's always been key to what we do in terms of the social side, in terms of meeting up, chatting, people getting the most from the group. You know, and whilst we could meet up outdoors, I actually, whilst I was out on my run last night, ran past a group of, I think they was doing some sort of boot camp by the river there, you know, and there was, guessing at 12 or 14 of them. And it just didn't look very pleasant. Whilst they was obviously enjoying it, whilst they were doing what they had to do for themselves, I'm not knocking that at all. It was wet, it was cold, you know, people was really, really spread out, and it was dark. It was really, really dark, and it just seemed a bit bizarre to me personally. Like I say, I'm not knocking it whatsoever because it's absolutely up to people what they do. But in terms of sort of do running, I'd like to do it when we can do it properly. And of course, with the festive season approaching, you know, there's lots going off already. We've put those plans into place. After Christmas, when the nights start drawing out again, if things don't change that quickly, it might be worth revisiting. But for the time being, we're just going to stick at the online offerings we give, encourage people to meet up. Of course, without the organised groups, we can still meet up in groups of 6 and run sort of leisurely or walk, or I've been out for a walk today. I mentioned I ran with Ben. You know, we kept a distance. You know, we've met some of Kay's family today, and we've gone for a walk around the river. That was absolutely fantastic to be able to do that again. I've actually been messing about with Kay's nephew, jumping in puddles, and that was brilliant. Again, just walking, just doing the things that feel normal, you know, and that's what it's about, isn't it? So make the most of what we can do. Make the most of running with friends, you know, running in groups of 6 if you can. I'll be looking to meet up with people, you know, potentially at or around Christmas, you know, to meet up with the people I want to. I'll be arranging that kind of meetup. So I definitely encourage that. But in terms of running, I'm just going to sort of hold fire for the time being and see where we go. Hopefully, with the talk of vaccinations, it won't be too long before everything's back to normal and we can really start sort of enjoying it like we used to and getting the most from what we do. And that will be a win-win for everybody, won't it? That's the day I'm sort of longing for. Really have felt it. I've mentioned that a few times. Really have felt it through this last lockdown. The summer lockdown wasn't as tough, but of course, we're trying to find that motivation to get out in the evenings, you know, and sort of balance it around what other people are doing and try and get buddies and things going. It's not been as easy, so I found it a little bit more difficult. So I'm really looking forward to getting out there as a group. So hopefully that sort of answers that, John. Of course, here in Nottingham, we're in tier 3, the strictest of tiers, so we've still got to sort of adhere to all those rules, you know. But as I've said all the time, activity has always been encouraged throughout this whole situation. So why would we not do something we love when we're actually being encouraged even more to do so? So, like I say, I hope that answers your question. Question 2 is from Davna. She says, she asked, what piece of advice has stayed with you? Do you know, she mentioned herself that before she got married, she once asked her mum, when will she know when is the right time to get married, to have children, you know? And her mum just replied, which I think is quite common, you know, that she will just know. She will just know when the time is. She will just deal with those situations. You know, I've heard that quite a lot about children in particular. You know, I've always had pressure on me because I'm a little bit older now and still not got children. And I know my mum would love grandchildren. So, but it's got to be the right time for the person, hasn't it? You know, it's got to be absolutely the right time and fit in with the situation. And so you make the most of it and you can do it the best way you can. In terms of myself and advice, I've mentioned this a few times. A few years ago, when I was a lot bigger, before I took up running, before I took up activity and the things I do today, you know, I was looking to lose weight. You know, I was struggling a bit in life. I didn't have a job at a certain point, and things just weren't working. And somebody said to me, "You intelligent, you generally have decent jobs. You know what you're doing. You can smash these things if you go to an interview." I was lacking in confidence, and I didn't really want to admit that, you know. And somebody said to me, and I've said this a few times, somebody who I didn't particularly sort of look up to. I'm not saying I disagreed with that person because I took on board their advice ultimately, but somebody I wasn't expecting it from just said to me, "Lose 2 stone in weight. Go to apply for these jobs, start applying for the jobs you should apply for again, and you'll absolutely smash it. Your confidence will come flooding back. You'll be confident in the way you look. Your body will be a lot more positive. You know, you'll be positive going into these interviews." And from that, I set myself a target of losing 2 stone that year. It was right at the start of the year. I also set myself a target of getting a job. And I lost it by thinking about losing weight and not being unrealistic with that target. I lost the 2 stone very quickly and got into running. And then, as I've said, everything is kind of snowballed from there in terms of the things I do, setting up a running group, extending that into a community interest company, and now doing a daily YouTube channel. You know, it's just all from that one bit of advice. I firmly believe that it's had a knock-on effect, and it really stuck with me. So whenever anybody's struggling now, with confidence in particular, we all struggle from time to time. I always try and advise something like that. That person knew I was a bit conscious of my weight, knew I was questioning myself when it came to interviews. So they just said to me, just do that, just lose 2 stone and you'll go in and smash these things. And thankfully, things started happening. Once I'd lost the weight, my confidence came back, started mixing in the running community, in a different circle, and building up relationships again. And when you do that, it's absolutely fantastic. And that's why I'm adamant in doing the things I do, trying to create an amazing community, trying to sort of offer that kind of advice online. And it's something that really stuck with me. So I think that's something useful to take forward. And thanks for that question. Great question, that. I was showing Kay before she went out, and she said that's a great question and was looking forward to it. So thanks for that, Davna. Question 3 is from Dawn. Any advice for relieving tight calves when taking part in activity? I know, of course, I know Dawn personally. She says that she's struggling a little bit in the first 10 minutes of her runs and her walks, despite doing warm-ups, despite doing stretches. It seems to be that she's struggling, and it's really painful. Well, there's quite a few things we can do. I can suggest, to try out, to try and ease that pain. What I will say, Dawn, on that, I know you've kind of upped your activity quite a lot recently, and really getting back into the running and really enjoying that and getting quicker as well. So the first thing I kind of say on that is it might just be a case of your muscles and your bones are taking a bit of time to sort of strengthen a little bit. I mentioned a lot about running in streets. It builds your strength. I find it really useful, and I know you've been sort of out every day in November, and you plan to sort of take that going forward. It's key to remember to build up gradually. I've actually been setting Dawn challenges, and part of what I've been doing is trying to build up gradually. So it's important not to do too much, and I'm not saying that she is, but we just have to live by that 10% rule all the time. Just build it up gradually. But thinking about Dawn's situation personally, that shouldn't be affecting her too much in terms of a calf. So there's a few things that you can do, really. Look at your hydration. Hydration is a real big one for circulation. Make sure you've had plenty of water. I'm sure she does that anyway, but it's something just to be mindful of. Compression socks, whether you actually wear them whilst you're running or after, I tend to wear compression socks a lot after. It's split 50-50 really. People, whether they believe they actually work in the first place, whether they believe they work during a run, after a run. I like to wear them, after a run. It seems to ease my aching legs. It seems to make me recover slightly quicker. All these things that work. Massage therapy might be another one. It might be worth getting a massage. Again, with all that activity, we all need to look after ourselves a little bit. So again, it's something I'm a little bit guilty of not thinking about too much. But of course, the option's there, and why not reward yourself after all that activity? And perhaps one of the first things to look at for all of this is the shoes you're wearing. And whilst it might have been comfortable when you was doing less activity, are they suitable for the amount of activity you're building up to? Are they wearing out? Are they old? Do you need some new trainers? Do you need to get a gait analysis again? Do you need to have a look at these kind of things? Just some things to look at there. Whilst I'm not going to go too deep into each one of those, there's just some ideas of how you can sort of think about it. But like I say, sometimes, and I don't want to sort of say do nothing, because that's the last thing I'd suggest, but sometimes just by building up, just by doing that little bit more. It's only natural we're going to get aches and pains. We all get a little bit frightened sometimes. We all get a bit concerned that we're injured, that we're doing something wrong. I've noticed through running every day in November and completing that challenge that I need to take a few days where I really ease it back. I'm planning on taking this forward through December as well, but I'm planning on taking it back a little bit, because a couple of my aches and pains, which have been a lot better to this point, have started to sort of resurface a little bit. And of course, the more you use certain parts of your body, the more it's going to become tired. And if you really have to, the most important thing is to take a break. Whilst I'm trying to incorporate really slow runs into my runs, sometimes it's just a case of whether it's a challenge or not. Of course, I've set the Do Running 25-day challenge to Christmas of completing 1 mile of activity a day. Whilst it's important to do these things, whilst it's great to feel that sort of epicness and achieving great things, and particularly finishing on Christmas Day, what a time to finish. That's what that's all about. If we really have to, we have to take a break and go again, because it's important to make sure we look at the long term, because there's nothing more frustrating than injury. There's nothing more frustrating as when you can't do it. So all that will come, like I say, just a few things to look at. I hope that helps you. Thanks for the question. And lastly today, Ben posted this one quite late. I thought it's a great question. What's your most favourite most memorable winter run? Which I'm actually going to use as this week's throwback, because I think it'll be a good one to pass back to the guys, whether it's an event or an activity. It'll be really useful to find out what you've what you find your most memorable run of, for what reasons. It's really important to get that. There's a couple for me, to be honest. I don't believe it's taking place this year, but there's a small 10K event locally, and we've run it as a club last couple of years. Always the last race of the year. It's called the Burton Joyce 10K. It's run between 3 villages. It's only a small event. You get your race number, you get a small medal, and it's really cheap. But a lot of the guys tend to use it. It's normally around New Year, whether it's last year, I think it was just before New Year. It can be in the start of the next year, actually. So it can either be the last race of the year or the first one at the start. And it's just a really nice, friendly event, really sort of low-key, but well-organised, And a lot of the guys over the last few years have met up in that period between Christmas and New Year, or right at the start of the new year, to take part. And it's just one of those where you don't have to plan it too much. We just arrange to meet on the day. We have a team photo, and like I say, it's always a nice sort of way to end the year or begin the new year, and sort of celebrate that great spirit we've had, catch up after Christmas, when we've perhaps not seen each other quite as much, and of course it won't be happening this year because of COVID, but things like that, when you've not seen each other for a while, are really sort of memorable and just something I enjoy. But there's lots. One of my inspirations for the challenge I've set this time was because I completed a run 5K every day challenge. It's one of the things that really got me thinking about taking my running to the next level. This was 4 or 5 years ago, and going out and completing 5K a day every day in December up until the 25th, and then going out on Christmas Day and doing it, that was really memorable for me. And it was the first time people said to me, "You don't run on Christmas Day, do you?" And it was like, well, yeah, it's even better. We spoke about that before, but being out on Christmas Day, I think I went out that day and did a 7 or 8 mile run, and then come back for my Christmas dinner, and it was absolutely fantastic. So that was really memorable, and there's lots more, and I'll have a few more of those next week. Hopefully you guys can too. Like I said, I think it's a great one to sort of use. So thanks for that, Ben. We'll sort of throw back on that one. And that's the questions. Thank you to you all for posting and for the feedback throughout the week. keep posting those in. I've got a couple already. I like to have a couple in hand, you know. Hopefully it's been useful and a little bit of insight to what you can do or how you can be inspired by certain things. And that's all it's about, guys. Like I say, I try not to get too deep into it. It's just important to pass on these little bits of information. Like I say, I'm really looking forward to the weekend. I'm looking forward to Wake Up to Walk. Of course, I touched on the challenge there. If you're not involved yet, there's still time. What we're trying to do is, like I say, do 1 mile of activity, whether it's running or walking or whatever activity you can. You know, if you can complete a mile, that'd be absolutely fantastic. Trying to do it every day until Christmas Day, just to keep people focused. There's some tips there to use. You know, it's not easy. A lot of the guys took part in it every day in November, you know, and are extending that on, you know, particularly if they're involved in this challenge I've set, they kind of have to. But I mentioned this to Kay earlier, it gets a lot harder, you know. It's pretty epic in November. It's getting cold, it's getting dark, but the colder and darker it gets, you know, it gets busy as well. You know, normally, not quite so much this year again because of bloody COVID, but it gets busy around Christmas parties, around work, around family commitments. So give it a go if you can. Do you know, it's been absolutely brilliant so far. A lot of the guys posting up a picture. Check that out in the closed Facebook group. Do you know, all you have to do is get out. Do you know, there's some prizes available for the ones who do brilliantly well and come up with the quirkiest posts and things like that. The links are at the bottom of the screen. So check out all the social media, check out that event. It's been another brilliant week with the start of that, with the solidarity session as well on Tuesday. We had all that sort of epicness at the start of the week, and hopefully that's going to carry on into the weekend. Of course, I'll be back in the morning from a different location. Again, not quite sure. I'm going to mull that over with a bit of wine and over that stew, and we'll decide where we're going. But until then, have a great evening. You know, if you haven't, get out and get day 3 in. Day 4 will be quickly upon us, and I'll be attacking it. You know, Wake Up to Walk. If you can get out sort of early, you know, it really makes a difference. So just say today, you know, get in my running and then going for a walk. Normally, I'll sort of walk a bit later in the afternoon or might go out again in the evening, but it feels like I don't have to today. So it feels like I can really bed down for the evening and I've achieved everything I need to. It's making me really look forward to that glass of wine and that food. So make the most of the daylight wherever you can, guys. But if you've got to go out in the evening, get wrapped up, you know, stay safe, get well lit up, you know, leave them headphones. There's nothing wrong with the natural surroundings. It's absolutely amazing. I'll be telling you all about that again in the morning. We Wake Up to Walk. But until then, have a great day. Just doing it.